Okay, so I did individual growth. For this section, we'll be understanding a person's growth as a human and how it connects to intercultural communications. For example, in the Carl Rogers theory, it emphasizes one's natural ability in to develop and improve in order to reach their full potential. His theory also suggests that people are inherently motivated to grow, but it all comes down to being in an environment in which one is supported, accepted, and understood. It also talks about how every individual has an innate drive towards self actualization. In other words, meaning when they naturally want to become the best versions of themselves, but having to develop each talent, such as learning experiences and living in a way that reflects an individual's goals and values. One other key concept in which he talks about is how individuals see themselves, such as their own self image, self esteem, and ideal self, being the type of person they'd like, in which meaning being the type of person they'd like to become. So when these parts become consistent with one another, that's when an individual begins to see growth within themselves. Once you begin to see growth, once you sorry, once you begin to see yourself being responsible for your own actions and it reflecting no wait, I messed up, sorry. And once you begin to see yourself being responsible for your own actions, it reflects the belief in where your self-concept becomes positive. In other words, meaning if a person believes they're capable of something but are constantly telling themselves in the back of their mind that they're a failure despite doing well, this can lead to one's stress levels to rise. And then also going back to the Carl Rogers theory, he also explained the relationship between an individual's real self and ideal self. Your real self in another way of ideal self. Your real self is another way of ideal self, which comes with confidence, authenticity, and emotional well-being. But there can also be incongruences which can happen when there's a big gap between who you think you are and who you think you should be, which can then have an outcome of anxiety and low self-esteem. I feel as though this theory matters because again, it emphasizes how individuals are more likely to grow when they feel respected, and understood rather than being criticized. This also encourages individuals to develop self-awareness, trusting their own experiences, and making choices that may align with their values. This theory can help a person grow as a human as well as this connecting to intercultural communications by suggesting that individuals begin to grow once they realize they're feeling understood and accepted. By having qualities such as empathy, respect, active listening, and acceptance. In other words, being able to understand ourselves and treat others with openness and empathy, individuals begin to become better communicators and are able to build strong relationships across cultural differences.